Good afternoon, everyone. So let's start this. My name is Zhongtian Sun, and I'm a PhD student from Durham University in computer science. So today it's our great pleasure to give you a presentation about how to use Python for web scraping for digital humanities. And it's gonna be me and my colleague Tahia and Jialin give you this presentation. Okay, so let's start. So today's presentation is mainly about how to use Python to do this Twitter data collection and LDA modeling and also topic modeling. So first, I will introduce how to use Python, so some basic knowledge, and then my colleague Tahia will explain about data collection and processing by using Python for Twitter. And my colleague Jialin will explain about LDA and topic modeling. Okay, so first about Python. Um, we need to know what is Python, what can Python do, and why Python. I believe everyone may hear this Python program language. It's quite popular, which was released in 1991. And it is an interpreted, interactive, and object-oriented programming language. So currently it has two versions, 2.7 and 3, and normally we are using the latest version 3. And what can Python do? So we use Python because it could be used to handle big data and perform complex mathematics. It could also connect to database systems for reading and modifying data files, and it could be used on server to create web applications. So we use Python because it's developed for readability. So the syntax, it would be quite simple and similar to English language. And it has advantage of it could be run on an interpreter system, which means that the code could be executed as soon as it is written. So we need to know how to install Python. Basically, there are two ways. One is that you go to this official website, you click, and then you find this page, you download the latest version. Or alternatively, you could use IDE, which is Integrated Development Environment. It's a kind of software application which provides comprehensive facilities. And most commonly used is called PyCharm. So after you download this PyCharm, you could run by clicking this software and open new file, build a new project. And you should notice that the file should be end with .py, this extension, so that this software will automatically recognize it is a Python format file. And then you could do coding. Alternatively, you could run this Python on Google Colab. So Google Colab is an online notebook which requires zero configuration, and it could provide first free access to GPUs. You could just open your Google browser and go to this, just search this Google Colab and open it with your registered Google account. And this Google Colab, it allows users to combine executable code and text in a single document. And it's easy for us to do online collaboration. Okay, so after knowing how to run this, let's see some basic knowledge about Python. So in Python, everything you create is a variable. And variable here are the containers for storing data values. And when you assign a value to a variable, it's you have created this variable. So for instance, in this case, you assign x equal to 4, and you just created this x variable. And when you create a variable, it has different types of it has different kind of data type. So if you assign x equal to a text, it's a string data type, and the type could be changed after you create a variable, and the values could be assigned to multiple variables. You could do this in one line. And here are the most commonly used data types. So you could see this text is string, and number is integer, and number with decimal is a float. And I will explain more about this list, tuple, dictionary, and cite. Here is the Google Colab I just show you. So basically, you just input this website, and then it will give you a page like this. You could open this to build a new file, and you input your code in this gray column, and then you can click this button to run it. Okay, so yeah, in this list tutorial, I will show this example on Google Colab, which I just explained before. So you could input this Google Colab in your Google browser, and you open new file. You could build a new Python file. And here you could input your code in this gray column, and then you click this button to run. So now I have created a list, and you could see that it starts with a square bracket. It's actually a collection which is ordered and changeable. So we will mostly use the list by access the item by referring to index number. So for instance, in this case, I have created this list and I want to access the first item, and it will print black. So you should notice that in Python, every index is start from 0. So in this case, 0 refer to this gray and first refer to this black. And if you want to do a negative index, which means that it will start come from the back end of this list, then you will see that -2 refer to this blue. So -1 and -2 that refer to this blue. And you could also do a range index. In this case, it's first to the third. So it refers to black and white. Because in Python, this and point won't be included in this exercise. So if you want to include this yellow, you should be do list first to fourth, which will include the third one. And after you create a list, you could go loop through the whole list, which means you could access each item of this list. So you just remember this 4x in list. It's kind of a rule you could just remember for it. And then you print x, it will give you each element of this list you have created. You could also use a enumerate, which not only loop both element, and it could also loop the index simultaneously. So in this instance, you could just go loop. So this value first, its index is 0, and its second is index is first. And after you create a list, you want to know how many items exactly you have in this list. You could use this length function. So about the function part, I will address later. And you just print and length this list. It will show you how many items you have. And you could also do some change like add items by using this append right. It's defaultly at the end of this list. And you could also insert some particular number at a particular position. So it will show you the orange, it will be put in the second place. And if you want to delete this some items, you could use pop function or remove function by specifying a particular value. So and finally, if you have two lists and you want to merge them, you could just directly use this add operation. So it's quite actually similar to a numerical operation. So it's quite easy and intuitive in Python. And that's pretty much about list. So the next data type is called tuple. And tuple, you could see that start with a round bracket, and its collection is ordered and unchangeable. So this unchangeable is the most important characteristic. For example, if you created this tuple and you want to assign the value, so you want to assign this 1, 2 to 6, 6, but you can see that it gives you type wrong, and it will remind you that tuple object does not support atom assignment. So this will be useful when we create a variable and we don't want to change its value after some operations. And the third one is called dictionary. So dictionary is actually it give you a key and a value. So you could access the value by referring the key. So it starts with this curly bracket, and the last data type is sites. So it also starts with this curly bracket, but it's unordered and it's not allowed duplicated value. So you could see that you have 55 and 99, but if you print out, it will show you only 15 and 19. And normally we will use this characteristic of site when we want to know how many unique items we have in one variable we have created. And here are the several most commonly used methods that I have addressed in that collab, and you could have a further see of this. And next is a function. So function is a block of code which could only runs when it is called, and you can call it multiple times. So basically, we don't need to we don't need to define a function every time when we want to use it. We could just define it once, and the function could return results. So we use this keyword def. You could see it in blue color. It means define. And define this function. So here is the function name you give it, and followed by a colon and bracket. So this bracket you could pass in all the parameters or arguments into this bracket, and then you define the rule, and then you call this function by using this name. So here is the example that you define this function and the parameter is x, and then you pass in the parameter as 25 here, and then it will show you the result of this. And so here is one thing I want to address is that you could define the default parameter value. For example, in this case, you set the default value is color equal to blue. And if you don't specifically stress this value, then it will directly show you the default value. And if you pass in other parameters, then it will show other results. And the last you need to know is the module. So a module is a code library, and we will use module to break down large programs into small, manageable, and organized files. So it could provide reusability of code. Basically, when we have a huge programs, we could break it into different small segments, and we can define our most used function in a module and then import it instead of copying their definitions into different programs. So you could see that here in this file named mymodule.py, that I define this function here, and the name is as my module. And in next file, this work file, I could simply by using this import my module. That means import the previous file, and then you could directly use the previous defined function in this new file. And that's basically the way how we are using this module. And lastly, here are some additional resources which you could have a look about how to do this Python coding.